Chapter 14 in Marketer-in-Chief is all about Franklin Pierce. And I know this is another one of those presidents that you're thinking to yourself, I am not clicking on this video. I do not care about Franklin Pierce. And I hear you. I get you. If you are watching this far, I promise you it is something interesting and relevant. We are going to take a look at Franklin Pierce in Marketer-in-Chief, all about the Ostend Manifesto. What is the Ostend Manifesto? Ostend is a city in Belgium, and I may not be pronouncing it correctly, so I'll get that right before I do the audiobook. But here's the thing. There were 3 American diplomats, and their job was to create a proposal to Spain for the island of Cuba, which is still a Spanish possession. The whole idea there, and Cuba has been one of those oddball relationships with the United States throughout American history, Cuban history, Spanish history, Russian, Soviet history. It is a big, big deal. It's very close, obviously, and it has changed hands multiple times. So like a lot of islands, the most significant island in the Caribbean, as far as United States foreign policy goes and negotiations go. Here's the bottom line. The negotiators they were going to put together a proposal to Spain to purchase the island, but there's a clause in there that said, hey, if they don't sell, we're going to fight them for it, and we're going to invade the island. Well, as you can probably guess, that manifesto, or that document, came out, and it essentially ruined Franklin Pierce's chances to negotiate effectively with Spain. So it was a complete clusterfuck, total disaster, and really set relations back a long time. In the book, I cover that story quickly, and frankly, jump into a story about my own family heritage. My mother's side of the family comes from Cuba. They were from Havana, and my grandfather lived a lot of this history and had a lot of opinions about Cuban history all the way back until this point. So it was really interesting to kind of go back and retrace the steps of Cuban history as it relates to Franklin Pierce, and this kind of what I would call kind of last best opportunity to incorporate Cuba into the United States. So very interesting sort of walkthrough on that. But I want to read you a little part to just kind of help you understand why Cuba was such a big deal at the time, so you have a little bit of context. So here's the excerpt for today. Franklin Pierce, a Northern Democrat, faced pressure from Southern slave-owning Democrats to protect their declining power in government. The reason was demographics. From 1830 to 1860, the population of the United States had grown from about 13 million to more than 31 million, mostly in the North. That meant that the U.S. House of Representatives, which was, and still is, based on population, was shifting irreversibly northward. Most politicians in the South considered the House lost cause. The presidency was a wild card, but the executive branch was only one person, and it did not have the same power it does today. The Supreme Court, once confirmed by the U.S. Senate, was no longer bound by elections and therefore unpredictable. The Senate was the only branch of government where the South had any hope of balancing power. Less than a decade before, Polk had secured vast new territory in the West from Mexico, but the economics of slavery weren't well suited to the region. Complicating matters, northern populations were large enough that groups were actively moving into the new territories, making it almost certain they would enter the Union as free states. It was only a matter of time before the Southern way of life was eliminated. It was urgent that the South add its own states to balance the scales, at least in the Senate. The trouble was, where do you look? An obvious choice? Cuba. No, Cuba wasn't contiguous to the mainland, but it had been on the minds of expansionists for decades. It was similar in climate to southern Florida. It already had a slave economy, sugarcane versus cotton, and its colonial overlord, Spain, was clearly in decline. Maybe Spain would sell. So that's kind of the story there, and gives you an idea of that kind of geopolitics at play, especially in the Senate. And we see that same thing happening in the Senate. It's happened multiple times, but anytime it's really close, like 50-50 or anywhere close to 50-50, the Senate tends to be the wild card. And you can see that today. What about D.C. statehood, Puerto Rico statehood, splitting Texas or the Dakotas into multiple states. Things like that are all questions about how we balance power in the U.S. Senate. So expect that if D.C. statehood, if the Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico were to become states, expect a state like Texas to split into multiple states as part of that grand bargain. So again, that balance of power is key. I will tell you, I know a lot of people are excited about that, and they've got lots of good reasons for making territories states or kind of splitting up or combining different states. Here's the deal. That didn't turn out so well in the 1830s, 40s, and 50s. That alone wasn't enough to prevent the outbreak of civil war at that time. There are obviously deeper issues, but to think that that kind of state acquisition or that establishing a state is going to fix the balance of power and fix the underlying issues is a bit of a fool's bargain. So, very interesting chapter on Franklin Pierce. I think you'll enjoy it. Again, July 4th is when the book comes out. Get it anywhere books are sold, but you can pre-order today on Amazon. You can pre-order the ebook. So go ahead and do that now.